Hey, I know you, don't I? Didn't we just see each other here a minute ago? Or a day ago? Who can keep track? Ah, COVID, right? Am I right? Ah, COVID. All right. We are on page 56. So, what is happening? When we left off, Slim was in the barn. Curly is looking for his wife. Carlson and Wit think Curly and Slim are going to fight because they think Slim might be with Curly's wife in the barn, you know? All right. So Slim is, Curly is looking for a fight. George and Lenny are quietly in the bunkhouse and they're just kind of talking. And is on his bed feeling sad because his dog was just killed. So that's where we are. George and Lenny are just quietly talking. All right. A little bit more than halfway down the page, page 56. Lenny drummed on the table with his fingers. George? Huh. George, how long is it going to be till we get that little place and live off the fat of the land? And rabbits. I don't know, said George. We got to get a big stake together. I know a little place we can get cheap, but they ain't giving it away. Old Candy turned slowly over. His eyes were wide open. He watched George carefully. Lenny said, Tell about that place, George. I just told you just last night. Go on. Tell again, George. Well, it's 10 acres, said George. Got a little windmill, got a little shack on it and a chicken run. Got a kitchen, orchard, cherries, apples, peaches, cots, nuts. Got a few berries. There's a place for alfalfa, plenty of water to flood it. There's a pig pen. And rabbits, George! No place for rabbits now, but I could easy build a few hutches, and you could feed alfalfa to the rabbits. Damn right I could, said Lenny. You goddamn right I could. George's hands stopped working with the cards. His voice was growing warmer. And we could have a few pigs. I could build a smokehouse like the one Grandpa had. And when we kill a pig, we can smoke the bacon and the hams, make sausage and like that. And when the salmon run up river, we could catch 100 of them, salt them down or smoke them. We could have them for breakfast. There ain't nothing so nice as smoked salmon. When the fruit come in, we can can it, and tomatoes, they're easy to can. Every Sunday we'd kill a chicken or a rabbit. Maybe we'd have a cow or a goat. And the cream is so goddamn thick, you gotta cut it with a knife, take it out with a spoon. Lenny watched him with wide eyes, and old Candy watched him too. Lenny said softly, We could live off the fat of the land. Sure, said George, all kinds of vegetables in the garden. And if we want a little whiskey, we could sell a few eggs or something, or some milk. We just live there. We'd belong there. There wouldn't be no more run around the country and get fed by a Jap cook. No, sir. We'd have our own place where we belonged and not sleep in no bunkhouse. Tell about the house, George, Lenny begged. Sure. We'd have a little house and a room to ourselves, a little fat iron stove, and in the winter, we'd keep a fire going in it. It ain't enough land, so we'd have to work too hard, maybe 6, 7 hours a day. We wouldn't have to buck no barley 11 hours a day. And when we put in a crop, why, we'd be there to take the crop up. We'd know what come of our planting. And rabbits, Lenny said eagerly. And I take care of them. Tell how I do that, George. Sure. You'd go out in the alfalfa patch. You'd have a sack. You'd fill up the sack and bring it in and put it in the rabbit cages. They never, said Lenny. The way they do. I've seen them. Every 6 weeks or so, George continued, them does would throw a litter, so we'd have plenty of rabbits to eat and to sell. And we keep a few pigeons to go flying around the windmill, like they done when I was a kid. He looked raptly at the wall over Lenny's head. It'd be our own place. And nobody'd can us. If we don't like a guy, we can say, get the hell out. And by God, he's got to do it. And if a friend come along, why, we'd have an extra bunk and we'd say, why don't you spend the night? And by God, he would. We'd have a setter dog and a couple of striped cats. You got to watch out, them cats don't get those rabbits. Lenny breathed hard. You just let them try to get the rabbits. I'll break their goddamn necks. I'll just smash them with a stick. He subsided, grumbling to himself, threatening the future cats which might dare to disturb the future rabbit. George sat entranced with his own picture. When Candy spoke, they both jumped, as though they had been caught doing something reprehensible. Candy said, You know where's a place like that? George was on guard immediately. Suppose I do, he said. What's that to you? You don't need to tell me where it's at. It might be any place. Sure, said George, that's right. You couldn't find it in 100 years. Candy went on excitedly. How much they want for a place like that? George watched him suspiciously. Well, I'd get it for $600. The old people that owns it is flat bust, and the old lady needs an operation. Say, what's it to you? You got nothing to do with us. Candy said, I ain't much good with only one hand. I lost my hand right here on this ranch. That's why they give me a job swamping. And they give me $250 because I lost my hand. And I got 50 more saved up right at the bank right now. That's 300. I got 50 more coming in the month. Tell you what. He leaned forward eagerly. Suppose I went in with you guys. That's $350 I put in. I ain't much good, but I could cook and tend chickens and hoe the garden some. How'd that be? George half closed his eyes. I gotta think about that. We was always gonna do it ourselves. Candy interrupted him. I'd make a will and leave my share to you guys in case I kick off. Because I ain't got no relatives nor nothing. You guys got any money? Maybe we could do it right now. George spat on the floor disgustedly. We got $10 between us. Then he said thoughtfully, Look, if me and Lenny work a month and don't spend nothing, we'll have $100. That'd be $450. I bet we could swing her for that. Then you and Lenny could go and get her started. I'd get a job and make up the rest, and you could sell eggs and stuff like that. They fell into a silence. They looked at one another amazed. This thing they had never really believed in was coming true. George said reverently, Jesus Christ, I bet we could swing her. His eyes were full of wonder. I bet we could swing her, he repeated softly. Candy sat on the edge of his bunk. He scratched the stump of his wrist nervously. I got hurt 4 years ago, he said. They'll can me pretty soon. Just as soon as I can't swamp out no bunkhouses, they'll put me on the county. Maybe if I give you guys my money, you'll let me hoe in the garden even after I ain't no good at it. And I'll wash dishes and little chicken stuff like that. But it'll be our own place. And I'll be let to work on our own place, he said miserably. You seen what they done to my dog tonight. They says he wasn't no good to himself nor nobody else. When they can me here, I wish somebody'd shoot me. But they won't do nothing like that. I won't have no place to go, and I can't get no more jobs. I'll have $30 more coming time you guys is ready to quit. George stood up. "We'll do her," he said. "We'll fix up that little old place and we'll go live there." He sat down again. They all sat still, all bemused at the beauty of this thing. Each mind popped into the future when this lovely thing should come about. George said wonderingly, "Suppose there was a carnival or a circus come to town, or a ball game, or any damn thing." Old Candy nodded in appreciation of the idea. "We'd just go to her," George said. "We wouldn't ask nobody if we could. Just say, we'll go to her, and we would. Just milk the cow and sling some grain to the chickens and go to her." "And put some grass to the rabbits," Lenny broke in. "I wouldn't never forget to feed them." "When we gonna do it, George?" "In 1 month. Right squack in 1 month. Know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna write them old people that owns the place that will take it. And Candy'll send $100 to bind her." "Sure will," said Candy. "They got a good stove there?" "Sure, got a nice stove. Burns coal or wood." "I'm gonna take my pup," said Lenny. "I bet by Christ he likes it there, by Jesus." Voices were approaching from outside. George said quickly, "Don't tell nobody about it. Just the 3 of us and nobody else. They liable to can us so we can't make no stake. Just go on like we was going to buck barley the rest of our lives, and all of a sudden, someday we'll go in and get our pay and scram out of here." Lenny and Candy nodded, and they were grinning with delight. "Don't tell nobody," Lenny said to himself. Candy said, "George, I'd have shot that dog myself, George. I shouldn't have ought to let no stranger shoot my dog." The door opened. Slim came in, followed by Curly and Carlson and Whit. Slim's hands were black with tar, and he was scowling. Curly hung close to his elbow. Curly said, "Well, I didn't mean nothing by it, Slim. I just asked you." Slim said, "Well, you've been asking me too often. I'm getting goddamn sick of it. If you can't look after your own goddamn wife, what do you expect me to do about it? You lay off of me." "I'm just trying to tell you I didn't mean nothing," said Curly. "I just thought you might have saw her." "Why don't you tell her to stay the hell home where she belongs," said Carlson. "You let her hang around bunkhouses, and pretty soon you're going to have something on your hands, and you won't be able to do nothing about it." Curly whirled on Carlson. "You keep out of this, unless you want to step outside." "Ha!" Carlson laughed. "You goddamn punk," he said. "You tried to throw a scare into Slim, and you couldn't make it stick. Slim throwed a scare into you. You're yellow as a frog belly. I don't care if you're the best welter in the country. You come after me, and I'll kick your goddamn head off." Candy joined the attack with joy. "Glove full of Vaseline," he said disgustedly. Curly glared at him. His eyes slipped on past and lighted on Lenny. And Lenny was still smiling with delight at the memory of the ranch. Curly stepped over to Lenny like a terrier. "What the hell are you laughing at?" Lenny looked blankly at him. "Huh?" Then Curly's rage exploded. "Come on, you big bastard! Get up on your feet! No big son of a bitch is gonna laugh at me! I'll show you who's yellow!" Lenny looked helplessly at George, and then he got up and tried to retreat. Curly was balanced and poised. He slashed at Lenny's left, and then smashed down on his nose with his right. Lenny gave a cry of terror. Blood welled from his nose. "George!" he cried. "Make him leave me alone, George!" He backed until he was against the wall, and Curly followed, slugging him in the face. Lenny's hands remained at his sides. He was too frightened to defend himself. George was on his feet, yelling, "Get him, Lenny! Don't let him do it!" Lenny covered his face with his huge paws and bleated with terror. He cried, "Make him stop, George!" Then Curly attacked his stomach and cut off his wind. Slim jumped up. "The dirty little rat," he cried. "I'll get him myself." George put out his hand and grabbed Slim. Wait a minute, he shouted. He cupped his hands around his mouth and yelled, "Get him, Lenny!" Lenny took his hands away from his face and looked about for George, and Curly slashed at his eyes. The big face was covered with blood. George yelled again, "I said get him!" Curly's fist was swinging when Lenny reached for it. The next minute, Curly was flopping like a fish on a line, and his closed fist was lost in Lenny's big hand. George ran down the room. "Let go of him, Lenny! Let go!" But Lenny watched in terror the flopping little man whom he held. Blood ran down Lenny's face. One of his eyes was cut and closed. George slapped him in the face again and again, and still Lenny held on to the closed fist. Curly was white and shrunken by now, and his struggling had become weak. He stood crying, his fist lost in Lenny's paw. George shouted over and over, "Let go his hand, Lenny! Let go! Slim, come help me while the guy got any hand left!" Suddenly, Lenny let go of his hold. He crouched, cowering against the wall. "You told me to join," he said miserably. Curly sat down on the floor, looking in wonder at his crushed hand. Slim and Carlson bent over him. Then Slim straightened up and regarded Lenny with horror. "We gotta get him to a doctor," he said. "Looks to me like every bone in his hand's bust." "I didn't want to," Lenny cried. "I didn't want to hurt him." Slim said, "Carlson, you get the candy wagon hitched up. We'll take him into Soledad and get him fixed up." Carlson hurried out. Slim turned to the whimpering Lenny. "It ain't your fault," he said. "This punk sure had it come to him, but Jesus, he ain't hardly got no hand left." Slim hurried out, and in a moment returned with a tin cup of water. He held it to Curly's lips. George said, "Slim, will we get canned now? We need the steak. Will Curly's old man can us now?" Slim smiled wryly. He knelt down beside Curly. "You got your senses in hand enough to listen?" he asked. Curly nodded. "Well then listen," Slim went on. "I think you got your hand busted in a machine. If you don't tell nobody what happened, we ain't going to. But you just try to get this guy canned, and we'll tell everybody. And then will you get the laugh?" "I won't tell," said Curly. He avoided looking at Lenny. Buggy wheels sounded outside. Slim helped Curly up. "Come on now. Carlson's going to take you into a doctor." He helped Curly out the door. The sound of the wheels drew away. In a moment, Slim came back into the bunkhouse. He looked at Lenny, still crouched fearfully against the wall. "Let's see your hands," he asked. Lenny stuck out his hands. "Christ almighty, I'd hate to have you mad at me," said Slim. George broke in. "Lenny was just scared," he explained. He didn't know what to do. I told you nobody ought never to fight with him." "No, I guess it was Candy I told." Candy nodded solemnly. "That's just what you done," he said. "Right this morning when Curly first lit into your friend, you says he better not fool with Lenny if he knows what's good for him. That's just what you says to me." George turned to Lenny. "It ain't your fault," he said. "You don't need to be scared no more. You done just what I told you to. Maybe you better go in the washroom and clean your face up. You look like hell." Lenny smiled with his bruised mouth. "I didn't want no trouble," he said. He walked toward the door, but just before he came to it, he turned back. "George?" "What you want?" "I can still tend to rabbits, George?" "Sure. You ain't done nothing wrong." "I didn't mean no harm, George." "Well, get the hell out and wash your face." Whoa, you guys! This is so good. My goodness. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look here what we got. All right, we already talked about that. So this dream that they have, this dream of a ranch and some chickens and this perfect setting, right? This dream that they have. The truth is, George actually knows of a farm that they could buy, but it costs more money than George and Lenny have. They're never able to quite save up enough, so they can never quite achieve the dream. Well, while they're talking about it and they're dreaming about it, Candy, they forget all about him. And Candy's like, wait, is that for real? You guys really know about this? Because I'm an old man and I've got a lot of money saved up, and that sounds great. And if I could come with you guys, well, all three of us could do this together and the three of us could live there. How's that sound? George and Lenny are like, whoa, wait a second. Well, it's just always going to be the two of us, but why not? Heck yeah! Let's do it. So George says, yeah, all three of us will do this. And this dream, this thing that they had never really believed in, that's an important clue. If you remember, back in chapter 1, where George first tells the story, he tells the story and it says his voice took on this deeper quality, this rhythmic quality, like he had told this story many times before. Remember that? We talked about that? George's voice became deeper. He repeated the words rhythmically, as though he had said them many times before. And then we talked about it, where he goes, ah, nuts. I ain't got time for no more. It's because they never really believed in it. It was always just a happy dream, a happy story. But it's not going to happen. But it's going to happen. Now it's going to happen. They've got the money. It's going to happen. It's for real. How exciting. I'm so excited for them. My goodness, I'm so excited for them. All right. So, Candy joins in. Now, you could just imagine Lenny sitting here going, the rabbits. And he's thinking about the rabbits. And all of these guys come in. All right, so we got Curly. And he's angry. Oops. Right? He's angry because he accused Slim of being funny with his wife. And Slim's like, you know what? Forget you, man. I'm not bothering with your wife. Look at this. When they come back in. What page is it? Page 62. If you remember the other day, we talked about how the conversation had kind of started outside. Same thing here. Bottom of 61, Slim and Carlson and Curly and Whit, they all come back in. And Curly says, well, I didn't mean nothing, Slim. I just asked you. We're missing the whole first part of this conversation because it happened out in the barn. But critical readers, we can fill in these blanks and we think, all right, what did Curly ask? Curly walked in the barn and said, Slim, are you in here? Is my wife in here with you? Slim, are you being funny with my wife? And Slim probably said something like, shut up, man. Leave me alone. I didn't do anything. And that's why Curly's saying, I didn't mean to insult you. I didn't mean nothing by it. I just asked you. And Slim's like, I'm sick of you asking. All right. So here's Curly. Curly's angry. Curly's a fighter. Curly's pride has just been wounded. Well, you can't fight Slim because Slim is the prince of the ranch. And nobody knows what Slim can do. It just might be that Slim is actually really super tough. And you're not as tough as you think, Curly. Carlson is like, you're a yellow coward. You tried to scare Slim, and Slim scared you. You coward. Well, Curly can't fight Carlson because Carlson says he's going to kick his head off. Carlson's a big dude. Carlson's like, bring it, son. I am ready to throw down. So Curly doesn't fight with him because Curly only fights fights he knows he can win. And then the old man is like, glove full of Vaseline. What's wrong with you? Well, Curly knows he can't fight an old one-handed man. That's not fair. So Curly's in a tough spot. He might lose to Slim. He'll probably lose to Carlson. Can't beat up an old man. dude. He looks around the room and he sees Lenny, a big guy, and he hates big guys. And Lenny's sitting there smiling. Think about rabbits. I mean, you have different color rabbits. And they're going to have long hair rabbits. And they're And Curly's like, you get up! Boom! And he punches him. Lenny doesn't know what to do. Lenny's like, what? And he's getting beat up. And Curly's just letting him have it. Slim knows this is wrong. And Slim's like, I'm going to beat up this guy myself. Slim's like, I'm going to get in the middle and knock this thing off. And George's like, wait. Lenny, get him. Remember when I told you stay away from him, but I said, if he takes a sock at you, let him have it? Let him have it. Did you catch the details? Ooh, did you catch the details? Look at this. Curly's beating Lenny up, page 63. Curly's fist was swinging when Lenny reached for it. The next minute, Curly was flopping like a fish on a line. What happened? From one sentence to the next, he's throwing the fist, and then he's flopping like a fish on the line. Lenny's getting beat up. What's that, George? You said get him? Curly throws the punch, and Lenny goes, oh, ninja skills. And Curly just gets completely like, yeah! And he just melts, and he's flopping like a fish on a line. Because Lenny's so stinking big and strong, he's like, and he just destroys Curly's hand. Now, of course, George and Lenny are scared they're going to get fired, and so everyone makes up the lie, saying Curly got his hand busted in a machine. So, it's so good. Okay, George and Lenny have their dream. Their dream's going to come true. Candy's a part of it. Oh, Lenny just destroyed the boss's son's hand. We're going to get fired. We're not going to get fired. Maybe we can still make that steak. Maybe we can still save up the money. All right, time will tell. So we're going to have to see later what happens. So just so everyone's on the same page, take a look here at the summary. George and Lenny were alone. George started talking about their dream farm. Candy Candy overheard and wants to join in. With Candy's money, they can actually make the dream come true. Slim, Carlson, Whit, and Curly all come back from the barn. Curly is angry. Curly wants to fight. And so he starts beating up Lenny pretty badly. George yells, get him! And Lenny just destroys Curly's hand. George is scared they're going to get fired, but everyone agrees that Curly got his hand caught in a machine because Curly had it coming to him. All right. Thus ends chapter 3. Please let me know if you have any questions. I hope that was able to sum things up for you. I hope you're enjoying the story. It's so good. All right. We will see you guys later. Bye now.